And I didn't like that his name was O2 because, like, he's able to leave a crime scime without a trace.
That was the worst. That was the worst.
And I was like, that's also doesn't make sense because if he can leave a crime scene without a trace, wouldn't it just be like a big bad that no one knows who he is?
Yeah, why does everyone know that? Oh, this is the guy who left the crime scene without a trace.
It's like that. That's a trace. People
right over there.
Like,
yeah.
Someone who leaves a crime scene without a trace is like someone who is like an unsolved criminal. Like he left a crime. Yeah. We don't know who it is. Not someone who he leaves a crime without a trace so much that we know it's him.
He's known. He's been locked up for 6 years. Yeah,
I know.
That's without a trace, all right.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
And I'm Del.
And this is the Black Catch-Up, where we're catching up on iconic black media we missed out on in our more conservative religious childhood.
All right, so today we watched Waist Deep.
Yes, we did. This is another installment of Somethin Real gave us a huge list of suggestions, so we're doing them all.
Yep.
Yeah, so thank you to Somethin Real for your suggestions. As I said, we're going to do them all. As always, IMDb. An ex-convict, Tyrese, gets tangled up with a game after his car is hijacked with his son inside.
All right. Yeah, I guess that is what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So, as usual, we'll start off with things we liked about this one. Yeah, I guess I'll start for this one.
Yeah.
I thought there was some good, or when they were doing the bank robberies, I thought that those were some funny scenes, especially like
I loved
Megan
those
Good's
scenes.
Scene. Yeah, Megan Good in those
Megan
scenes was
Good's
really funny. Like her, like just
Megan
like
Good's
freaking out over
a
like not
hilarious
being able to
person.
cash a check. So
Yep.
But yeah, I thought those scenes were like really fun and kind of like that like heist type of shenanigans that you like to see in these movies.
Yeah, I liked those montages. They were very fun.
Yeah.
They were very good. I don't have that many, so this is the other one I have. Because you said my first one.
Yeah.
The other one I had was, I like the idea of this movie when it first starts. I like the idea of Tyrese's character trying to get his son back and him having to do anything he can to get him back. I like that idea of something like goes wrong. He's trying his best to like turn his life around. Something goes wrong. His son gets kidnapped. I like that idea. They didn't execute it in a way I wanted them to, but I like the idea of that. Okay. So that was my other positive.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have any other positives either. All right. Yeah. You can probably get into negatives here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it felt like there was just a lot of holes with this one. You know, like I don't know what it was, but like the things I wrote down. I wrote it was hard to get behind any of the characters and like tell their motivations for doing things.
Yeah.
I also thought they kind of. Oh, go ahead.
No, keep going.
I was gonna say I also thought they like explained Tyrese's backstory like kind of late in the movie. So like when he gets like his car jacked, I'm like, weird. Why'd they target this guy? And I'm like assuming they're gonna just let the kid go because like they probably just wanted the car. But then you find out like, oh, he like used to be in this guy's gang kind of thing. Like I don't know. It just like it was hard to get behind these characters when you don't know anything about them, and the movie just kind of like drops you in with like, oh, he lost his son. It's like, okay, I can get behind that, but like everything, and I couldn't understand why Coco was helping at all. Like it seemed like she didn't even have much information to like actually help him with, but he was just
exactly. That's what I was confused by. Because I was gonna say from the get-go, it was super like. How did he immediately know that Coco talking to him meant that she was marking him? I was like, is that a thing carjackers do? Send a pretty girl to talk to you and that's the mark? Like, is that a thing? Also, another thing was he was upset because he had a gun. And the reason he had the gun made zero sense. He was like, because he had been arrested, he'd been in jail for 6 years. Again, this is all, we find out he's been in jail 6 years, like really late. But when he explains why he has a gun, even though he shouldn't have a gun, he says he took it from his job and he was going to give it back. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And then it was also like, so the job gave him the gun, but it's like a job that like rehabilitates people who've already been convicted of crimes. And I'm like, is that really a place that you can get a gun from? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So him just him having a gun and that being kind of like a thing, I was like, what does that mean? Like, how did you do that? Like, this whole suspicious job that gives you guns if you've been to jail is like...
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
Like, I know America's bad, but, like, I didn't think it was give convicts a gun bad. Like, what is that?
And then his reasoning was like, oh yeah, I would have given it back if the guy who took my shift wasn't 20 minutes late or something like that. I was like, how does that even factor into this? Like, like you leave the gun and leave the job at the same time. Like, I don't know.
Meanwhile, all of this is in, like, the first 30 minutes, this whole gun story.
Yeah.
So while they're, like, figuring out other things, I'm still trying to piece together the gun problem. I'm like, he's not supposed to have the gun, but how did he get the gun?
Yep,
like, what is the story?
Yeah.
So that was so very, very odd. Another thing that I didn't like about this movie was it almost seemed like they were trying to say something about, like, police brutality for a spell. Because, weirdly, the kind of backdrop of this was, like... And I say backdrop with the biggest quotations in the world. Because it doesn't factor into the plot or anything. I thought there was going to be something about police brutality. But they, like, talk about there's protesters in the streets. But then it seems as though Tyrese and the gang are on the side of the police. And I'm like, what is this? Whose message is this? Like, what? What are we doing, guys? What are we doing? It was very weird.
I remember that scene, too. Because that was when the cousin character, who I didn't really know what his role in the movie was, aside from him not picking up the kid in the beginning and then, like, wanting more responsibility at the end. But there was that scene where he gets jacked by the gangs while the, like, right next to the protest. And, like, it felt like, oh, like, they're going to make us... But they didn't, and they just drove off. Yeah, no, I don't know the scene you're talking
But, like,
about.
the protests were, like, a weird thing in the background that just didn't need to be there. Because it wasn't, like, commenting on anything. Mm-hmm. There wasn't, like... And I remember it because it was one of the first scenes in the movie, too. That this, like... protest, march for our lives, or whatever was happening.
Yeah. No, it happened a couple times. They kind of kept doing it throughout the movie. It was... Yeah,
but I was like, this isn't woven into the story. They're kind of just like, they're doing things and, oh, by the way, a protest is happening, but they're not like for or against. It was so odd. I was like, this is the absolute wrong way to bring up anything. Like, what are you guys doing? It made no sense.
Yeah.
Again, because it seemed as though they were on the side of the cops, and I was like, is this really what we're doing here? Like, I don't like that.
Yeah. The final straw for me on this one was the ending. I was like actually like visibly upset at the ending on this one. Like, for so many reasons. Like, he drives off into the water. I'm like, okay, please end the movie. Like, this is a terrible ending anyway, but just end it here. And then they cut to the scene of, like, the kid in Coco at the beach. And I'm like, all right, we don't need this scene. And then the kid says something like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if I think he'll come, one day I might see him. And I'm just like, oh, great. Here we go.
Yeah, because what does he do? He, like, cleans his room or something just in case his dad comes to visit. I'm like, what are you talking about?
And I was like, no, we're going to bring this man back from the dead. And then he proceeds to, like, recognize him from, like, a mile away. And I was like, that was like, no way you know that's your father. You're running to this strange man who just walked out from the ocean, like...
Yeah.
I just need answers for that whole ending.
That was so wild because he notices him from a mile away. Meanwhile, Coco, like, realizes it from, like, 0.75 miles away and is like, oh my God, that is him. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't see this man.
Yeah.
He's just a guy who's walking along the beach. Like, what?
Yeah.
That was so wild. We say show your work movie a lot. This
movie showed
y'all needed to show your work on this one.
Yeah, this was definitely
Fast and Furious levels of coming back to life.
Especially because you see after he drives his car into the lake or whatever that body of water was, the police are like on the shore, so there's like literally no other way for him to be, and he can't breathe underwater. So it's like someone would have feasibly seen him, and they would have. This guy was wanted. Like he and Coco were doing a whole Bonnie and Clyde thing, which they weren't, but I'll get into that later. But they were doing their whole like lovers fighting, making, robbing, whatever thing. Like he's a wanted man. Everyone wants him. Like. The police surround the entire water, and like nobody sees this man come out of the water. Like
there's no way you didn't see him like
literally
swimming
nowhere to go.
somewhere. Like you had to have seen something for this man. But
Yeah, you had to have seen something. Like, even if he has the best breath control in all the world, someone would have... He still needs air. He's a person.
Yeah.
He would have needed to get out. And, like, you mean to tell me that even if they don't... Like, even if they don't see him come out, like, and his plan is to just, like, be in the car because... This isn't a real thing in physics, but I'm going to guess the movie's reasoning. But, like, oh, because the car windows are up, he still has air so he can be underwater in the car and and just wait until the police go. Isn't someone going to recover the car? Like,
Yeah,
that's still
like,
a car in the water. You can't just keep it there. Like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
So, for no one to have seen him and to somehow swim all the way to Mexico? Were they in Mexico?
I don't even know where they started,
Honestly, but yeah. I think they ended in Mexico, I'm pretty sure. But,
But that was wild. That was the worst ending. Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh.
No, I was angry
at the end of this one, I was like actually angry at the end of this one.
Oh, speaking of the romance thing, or Bonnie and Clyde, essentially, they tried to frame them as Bonnie and Clyde. They were not Bonnie and Clyde.
No.
They
not
tried to do
really.
two separate archetypes. They tried to do almost and I don't remember when Taken came out, so I can't say if this was referencing Taken or Taken was referencing this. But they seemed to want to do like a Taken type of thing with him and his son, but also a Bonnie and Clyde thing, but it just like...
Yeah. Did not mesh.
Did not.
It was a mess. Oh, and I guess the last thing is, why did the kid try to get out the car when his dad was getting jacked? Like, I know he was, like, lying down in the back seat. Was he asleep? What was that?
He was supposedly asleep, but, like, that's a heavy sleep there, because, like, you're in a whole car chase and you were asleep for half of it. Gunshots ringing and you're asleep.
I know. You didn't hear the guy yelling at your dad to, like, get out the car?
Yeah.
Like, that's an intense thing that just happened, man. What are you doing?
Yeah. Not to mention,
But that was...
Tyrese taking his hands off the wheel while driving. That happens so many times. Like, he'll be, like, driving, and he'll just, like, pick his kid up and put him in the back seat. I'm like, you're driving, swerving to the other lane, you know. Yeah. The last nitpick I had was, like, they did, like, a weird slow motion thing at times. That was, like, not true slow motion, but, like, choppy, like, I don't know what it's called, but, like, choppy edits almost, or, like skip, like, freeze frames kind of thing. I don't know if you saw that.
Almost like a YouTube video.
Yeah, it was just, like, weird. I wasn't feeling it. I was not feeling it, you know?
No.
Like, the movie wasn't even good enough to warrant this kind of, like, slow motion anyway, so, like...
No, it did not warrant
Yeah.
slow motion. It honestly should have been sped up.
Yeah.
Like, fast forward it real good.
Yeah, because this movie wasn't even long.
long, but it definitely, like, felt like you're there for a while. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. It was very odd. I was like, how am I still in this movie? This movie definitely felt longer than Fresh.
Yeah, no,
And
it did.
Fresh was almost 2 hours.
Yeah, this one was like a little over 90 minutes.
Yeah,
But,
but I think it's all the plot holes. When you have a lot of plot holes, you're just kind of like thinking, like, what is going on?
This was like a 2.5 hour movie, but like an hour of it just happened off screen. So now we're just sitting here confused. Like,
That's why we're
what
so
happened.
confused.
But,
And I bet you like an hour of it was that gun thing because whew.
Yeah.
the good thing at the beginning we needed more time on. We needed Coco's backstory on why she like even was helping this guy. Like, I don't even know who like how Coco's like drug boss factored into the whole thing. Because her drug boss wasn't Big Meat. It was some P Money guy.
Yeah. I know Coco was a pimp or something like that, and she somehow got roped into this whole thing because he, like, wanted her help. She didn't have that much information, like you said. And then after it, she was like, can you just take me home? I'm going to try to recover the $500 you, like, threw in the street. He was like, you're not going to be able to do that, so come with me. I'm like, how do you know if she can turn $500?
Yeah.
Megan Good is gorgeous. She could turn $500 real quick.
That was also the other thing. Like, I didn't realize he had this crime past. So when he was like, "Yeah, you need 100,000," he was like, "Yeah, I got it." I was like, "What? Like, how are you gonna find this?" And then he just turns to crime immediately, and I'm like, "Is it that easy for people to turn to crime like this?" Like, he was like, "Yeah, I need 100,000." He's robbing banks within like 12 hours, you know?
Yeah.
But
not banks. What made it unique was he was robbing safety deposit boxes.
Yeah.
So people never knew what he took.
Yeah.
He was Bonnie and Clyde. And when they were in the gas station and the guy was like, oh, can I have your autograph? I'm like, is this a thing? Are people like... I mean, I guess people like Ted Bundy, but still, this is wild. So I think that's everything. So we're on to ratings now.
Yeah.
You want to kick this one off?
Yeah, I didn't write anything, but I'm guessing based off of what I've been saying, this is a 1.5 out of 5. I don't know. This was just
Yeah.
This had so many plot holes, but not in a fun kind of Fast and the Furious. We're just watching cars race and it's kind of exciting. This was like genuinely confusing at points. I'm like, how people did things. Starting with the gun. As soon as the gun thing happened and was not explained, I was like, this is going to be a hard one, Tyrese. This is a hard pill to swallow over here.
No, I give this one a 1.5
too. Like, you just, like, can't get behind any of the characters in this one. Like, the plot is, like, not that interesting. Like, aside from his like, kid getting kidnapped, but then it just kind of, like, gets, like, distracted by itself, in a sense. Like... Just between like all the things it's like trying to do.
Yeah. It was trying to be a jack of all trades, but it didn't master any of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, not the best film, but
Nope.
Yeah, that was. Oh, final question. Do you wish you saw this sooner? Yeah, I forget we have to ask this one. Yeah, it's a no for me. It's a no for me, dog.
Yeah, it's a no for me, dog, as well. I could do without that. I didn't need to see this at all, even.
Yeah, no, I'm okay not seeing this one.
This isn't even for, like, the Fast and Furious fans of Tyrese. No.
It's not.
There was a moment where he was driving, doing a little drifting, but again, they did that little, like, slow motion choppy thing.
Yeah.
So it, like, didn't even feel right, you know?
Did not. A lot of this movie didn't feel right, but we soldier on, I guess.
Yeah,
not to mention the ending just angered me. Angry at the end.
So corny to have him be alive.
Yeah. It was just a song.
Like, because they could have just ended it with him driving in the water and had, like, a slightly better movie. They might have gotten
slightly better if he just died. Then I've been like,
let him die
okay,
at
there.
the end, you know? Like, okay, not bad. But now I'm upset. You know?
Especially because the kid saw him from so far away.
Yeah. No. But sheesh.
Okay, that was wasted.
Yes, thank you again to Somethin Real for your suggestion, and keep watching because we're plowing through the rest of these suggestions.
Yep. So
YouTube housekeeping, like, comment, subscribe.
Ring the bell for notifications. If you have any movie suggestions for us, you can leave them in the comments down below. We do movies on Tuesdays and Fridays. All of our socials will be linked in the description box down below, and we'll see you next time to catch up. Bye.
Did this whole movie not take place over the course of like a day?
No, I actually don't know. I think it was a couple days. Like, that was another thing I had. The timeline is suspicious as hell. How long is this movie?
Yeah.
Like...
Because I swear I remember in the beginning, he was like, oh yeah, you have till Friday to get me my 100,000. And then Tyrese goes, that's tomorrow. I thought I remember that happening. But then, like, all this stuff happened. And I'm like, okay, no way, this is a day. I'm seeing the sunrise. I'm seeing, like, sun go down, sunrise
they're having,
again.
like, these... they're having conversations where they talk about dead kids in prison. Like...
Yeah.
That was why I was like...
I didn't know the timeline.
I didn't understand the timeline either. Because in a better movie, I assume... you would have this all take place in a day and like, well, actually, in a better movie, the timeline is clear. Just because that's the way to really ratchet up stakes, especially if someone is kidnapped. Like, I don't know how you can have someone be kidnapped and then the stakes are like weirdly not high because we don't know how long he's been gone.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
We don't know, like, even who took him really.
Yeah.
Like, why he took him
and
really.
we learn it's a setup and it's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
You're setting this up like with Tyrese? I'm still blown over the fact that he just knew he was a mark because Megan Good talked to him. I'm like, is that a thing? Is that a thing that's how Mark's like? Oh my god!
And then I still didn't understand his cousin's role. Like, his cousin, was he like? I couldn't tell whose side the cousin was on. Like,
oh my god!
He worked for the big meat guy, but was trying to help his cousin, but like failing at both. It seemed like
this was so messy. This was like a very messy movie. Like this,
it was, especially for something so short. Like, and then you look at the cast and there's like 8 people in the cast. Like, how did you fuck this up? Like, how am I confused when there's only 8 people on the screen? You know?